welcome to the Goldenberg Destiny Project. This week, we're going to start the study of history. The previous weeks, the first 7 sessions, we established what are the principles by which the House of Classical Judaism views the progress of history and world history. So we spoke about the existence of God, which we know through logic, but also maybe even more important, that logic, maybe some people can try to dispute the logic, but we know it through memory. We remember the Exodus from Egypt. We remember our stand at Mount Sinai. We remember that God gave us the Torah, and we know that God exists and He gave us the Torah, and we know that whatever it says in the Torah is true. So that's a given. What says in the Torah is the truth. That is a given. It is prophecy. God gave it to Moshe, and that we accept as a given. And that's the starting point of our investigation of history. Now, we know that God created the world, yesh ma'ayin, existence from non-existence. And He created it, and the Torah says He created it in 6 days, 7 days. He created the world in 2 stages. The first stage was the creation of the physical world, the material world. We spoke about God being the divine painter, and the purpose of creation is God was creating an incredible masterpiece. So there were 2 levels to this masterpiece. The first level of this masterpiece was the creation of the background, the creation of the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth and the mountains, the valleys and the oceans. These are the background. And the second stage of the creation was the creation of man, of the human race. And that fulfills the higher purpose of creation, which is that the painting should recognize the painter. That is the most phenomenal possible artistic achievement which God's purpose was in the creation of the world. We spoke about this in earlier chapters. So the second stage of creation, the creation of the human race, that was the second level of the creation of the world. Now, there are 2 opinions in the Gemara among the sages. One is that the world was created in the month of Tishrei, and one is that the world was created in the month of Nisan. So, Tosfos says in Rosh Hashanah, the Chesed Beis, Tosfos says that if it was created in Nisan, then it was created in the 25th of Adar. That means 6 days earlier. If it was created in Tishrei, it was created on the 25th day of Elul. Now, so in other words, the world was not created in Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. The world was created on the 25th day of Elul, or Nisan, same thing. So we're counting from the creation of a person, from the creation of a person. And you see also that the 25th day of Elul, before the creation of the world, before the first Tishrei, how could there be a 25th day of Elul if you didn't have the first 24 days? There was no Elul, so the last 5 days were created, and we call it the 25th day of Elul. So what is the point of this? What is the point of Tosfos? What does that mean? It was created 5 days before. So if there had been an Elul, so you could say that it was created on 25th day of Elul, and that's when the creation started. But there was no Elul before. So basically what Tosfos is saying is that history begins with the creation of the human race, which is on Rosh Chodesh. The 5 days before are prehistory. It doesn't mean that it was on 25th, just trying to separate it and saying that these days, the 6 days before, 5 days before, are not part of history. They are prehistory. History starts with a complete month. That complete month is either Tishrei or Nisan. It doesn't start with a part of a month. It starts with a complete month. The 5 days previous are not part of history. They are prehistory. Okay? So let's talk about the prehistory. What happened during the prehistory? So what is the line of demarcation between prehistory and history? So we just discussed that the creation of the human race, that establishes history, and before that was prehistory. But there's also another line of demarcation which I would like to discuss. Among the geologists, there are two schools of thought about the development of the Earth. One school is called uniformitarianism, by somebody, Gilkey, who came up with this, maybe others. And that means that what you see now is what was there in the past. If you look at the world and it takes, let's say, a land to be eroded a certain amount of time, then that's the rate of erosion. And go all the way back, that's what applies. So if you want to figure out how old the world is, how long did it take for the Grand Canyon to form, let's say? So you figure, all of this with erosion and sedimentation and everything, you figure billions of years, right? That's the uniformitarian approach. There's also something called catastrophism, which believes that you cannot date the world like that because the world is formed very much by periodic cataclysmic events. It can be major volcanic eruptions, tidal waves, meteors can strike the earth. So it's not possible to know how old the world is. You can't know because we don't know, we have no record of what cataclysmic events happened. So these are the two approaches. Now, uniformitarianism is the opposite of creationism, because if you believe that God created the world existence from non-existence, that is like the height of a cataclysmic event. It's more than any volcanic eruption. It's just bringing the world into existence. So uniformitarianism does not believe in creation, doesn't believe in creationism. Creationism in academia, when they use the word creationism, they use it derisively. Creationism is like backward, primitive creationism. But we in the House of Classical Judaism, we very much believe in creationism. Creationism means that God created the world, He brought it to existence from non-existence. So uniformitarianism, it's a long word, and uniformitarianism rejects creationism. Catastrophism, not necessarily, but either way. But they don't, actually, they can accept it, they cannot accept it. We, of course, do accept it. Now, what happened during this prehistoric period, the first 5 days of creation? What happened during this period? The Pasuk says, V'yichal Elokim b'yom hashvi melachta asher asa. Hashem finished His work on the seventh day, Vayishbos b'yom hashvi, and He rested on the seventh day, Mekol melachta asher asa, from all His work. So Rashi asks that according to the Torah, everything was done in 6 days. Nothing was done on the seventh day. So why does it say that God finished His work on the seventh day? So Rashi has two explanations. I want to focus on the second one. Rashi says that after the 6 days of creation, Mahoy olam chaser menucha. What was the world missing? It was missing rest. Shabbos ba menucha. When Shabbos came, menucha came. Then rest came. So what is this Rashi saying? that God created the whole world. He did all his work on the 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. But resting is an absence of work. How could you say that he finished his work on the seventh day because he rested? Resting is an absence. He stopped. By the end of the 6th day, everything was done and nothing more was done. So what does he mean? Why? How is resting? So there are many explanations given for this, mystical explanations, drash and many things. But I want to explain this, al pi derech hapshat. I want to explain what Rashi is saying. So Rashi is saying that during the first 6 days of creation, the process of creation was very rapid. Everything was very, very quick. So if it took a tree, if today, in our time, it takes a tree 20 years to grow, during the time of creation, it could take 5 minutes. The exact same process. But everything was very rapid. Everything happened very rapidly. Species rose, species went into extinction. There were many, many things happened. Dinosaurs came, and there were all kinds of different creatures, mammoths, hominids. Hominids are these like Neanderthal, which are like human-like, but they were not human, I mean, certainly according to us, because God created a human being in his Tzelem Elokim, in his image. And what does that mean? The Rambam says in the Moreh Nevuchim, that means a living intellect. These hominids were not intellectual. They had a certain amount of intelligence, like they were able to maybe draw things on a cave wall or make fires. But they were like chimpanzees or dolphins. They had intelligence. They were aware, but they had no intellect. So they were certainly not Tzelem Elokim. They were not made in the image of God. So they were creatures. They were creatures that existed at that time. There were dinosaurs, and there were mammoths, and there were hominids, and they came and they went. And why? I don't know. This is how the divine painter chose to use his palette and his brush. He went and he made a beautiful world. He made stars and mountains and rivers and valleys and dinosaurs and pterodactyls and whatever else there was. He decided to make them. Why does the artist doing that? We would advise him, why bother with that? Do something else. He doesn't need our advice. He's not asking for our advice. This is how he decided to create the world. Now, this is what Rashi is saying. Rashi is saying that during the 6 days of creation, the processes of nature were at very high speed. Everything was happening very, very quickly. Everything was developing. The Grand Canyon maybe took 2 hours, maybe took 3 hours, but everything was very accelerated. And at the end, then on Shabbos, we got something that didn't exist before. We got menucha. We got normal speed. Normal speed was added to the world on Shabbos. Until Shabbos, everything was super rapid. The Gemara says that by Adam and Chava, 2 people went into the bed, 4 people came down on the 6th day. What does that mean? They didn't give birth. She didn't give birth to 2 adults. She gave birth to babies, and the babies during that 6th day grew into adults. And whatever they did. So that means everything was very, very, very rapid. But Shabbos, B'menucha. On Shabbos, everything calmed down. Everything was normal speed. That was an introduction into the world of something that was not there during the first 6 days. Give you more like an example. If you take a bowl and put in pieces of fruit and some liquid, and you take a knife, and you stir it, and stir it, and stir it, and stir it with the knife. You do it long enough, you're going to get a smoothie. Long enough, you do it, maybe it'll rot before you finish, but assuming that it doesn't rot, you do it long enough, you will get a smoothie. But if you take those pieces of fruit and you put them into a blender, and then you turn on the blender, then that whole thing will happen immediately. That's what happened during the Sheish Shmei Bereishis. So besides that period being prehistoric in the sense that it was preliminary to the introduction of human beings to the world, it was also prehistoric in the sense that the processes that operate in the world today as we see it, those processes at that time were completely different. They were very accelerated, and all kinds of things happen, and they have no relation to the world in which we live. Okay, so this is the prehistoric period, and next time we will begin with the creation of human beings. Thank you.